Hi everybody, this is Courtney with Fiberfox Studios, and today we're going to be learning this design right here. This is version number 5 in the chart set, which I have linked down below in the description. The charts are available for purchase on my Etsy store. So this is version number 5 of the design. For those of you who are interested in the chart sets and you are going to use the chart and follow with the video, you want to make sure that you pick version number 5. So you would work with that chart in conjunction with this tutorial, but you do not need the chart set. You can follow along. Every row with me is done here in this video, so you do not need to buy anything. I'm going to teach you how to do this and how to move up for additional repeats of the same design. So you want to grab your supplies and we'll get started in just a moment. You'll be able to work this. It's a multiple of 9 plus 3 at the end for working flat, or you'll just chain in your multiple of 9 if you're wanting to work in the round, and those instructions are provided to you in this video as well. In today's video, we are going to be working with these two color yarns. This one right here is Pine Green, and this is the Premier Just Yarn Worsted. So this one is going to be my color A for this video. And then for color B, I'm going to be using this Paint Box yarn, Simply DK. And the color number on this one is color number 131. It's a really pretty blue color. So we're going to get started by doing our chain. So for all of us, we're going to be working with a starting chain that is chained out in a multiple of 9. So our multiple for our project is going to be 9 plus 3. So I have a total of 21 chains here on my hook right now. So that is 2 of the multiples for 18 chains. And then we add 3 chains to the end. That is how you do your starting chain. For those of you who want to work in the round, you are just going to chain your multiple of 9 and then slip stitch to the first chain and begin working the repeat in the video in the very same stitch that you join and slip stitch into right here to form your ring. So make sure that you pop down to that description for project ideas where I have already done the chain counts for you. So that's all down below in the description on the video, along with a lot of extra information. So please make sure you check that out. We're going to begin row 1 now. So for those of you who are not ready, get your starting chain ready and then meet back up with me for row number 1. Row 1 begins now, and the repeat for row 1 is very, very simple once we get this row started. All of your rows are going to begin by doing a single crochet into the very first stitch. Since we are starting and we're working with color B, we have to use one of our plus stitches as a turning chain. That's why it's there. So we're going to be skipping the very first chain and working here into the second chain from our hook. So we're just going to work into that chain, going under the V, and we do a traditional single crochet. Now our repeat for the entire row is to put a back loop only single crochet into every stitch. And this is how we're going to work all of our single crochets throughout our repeats on each and every row. We're going to pick up back loop on the next stitch, and then we complete a single crochet. So we need to place one of those in every single stitch, and then the very last stitch in our row we'll get the traditional single crochet going under the V. So you can pause here and keep placing your single crochets all the way down the rest of your row, and then we'll meet back up when you're ready to end row 1 and move on to row number 2. We are now at the end of row number 1, and we have 1 stitch left. So we have this 1 chain to work into. This is how we're going to end every single row. So we'll not be showing this again, but at the end of every single row, we make sure that we get under the V. Once we make sure we're completely in that stitch under the V, we can just finish out from here working a single crochet like normal. And then we will chain up 2. You can bind off however you like, but this is how I like to do it. And we'll clip our yarn and join on for row number 2. At the end of row 1, I now have 20 stitches. So because of the 1 turning chain that we have in order to start row 1, we will always end up with 1 less stitch than we chained when we did our starting chain. So now we're going to move on to row 2. And to do that, we need to identify the very first stitch in our row and go under that stitch. So this again is how you're going to start every single row. So I will not be showing this again, but we want to make sure that we go under that stitch. And now we will join on our yarn and do row number 2. So now we're joining on this time with color A. So for me, that's the green tone yarn. We just do a little slip knot on our hook. We've already inserted there into the very first stitch. And we pull up our loop. Now we're going to chain 1. And we're going to go back into the same exact stitch. And we pull up a loop. We grab and pull through all those little loops. So we do our traditional single crochet each and every time into the first stitch. Now the repeat for row 2 is just like row number 1. We're going to be working in the back loop only, doing our single crochet. So the entire row is single crochet for row number 2. Get up nice and close so you guys can see. So we're going to keep working in this exact same manner all the way down row 2. And we'll meet back up for row number 3, and that's where our mosaic work is going to begin. So we'll be back in just a moment. Here's what our work is looking like. I know it doesn't look like much, but now on row 3, we are going to begin doing some mosaic work. So for row 3, we're going to join on this time with color B, and then we will begin doing our repeat immediately. So our repeat for row number 3 begins by doing 3 single crochets over the next 3 stitches. So just like I showed you, we're going to be working all of our single crochets in the repeat in that back loop only. So just in the back of the stitch. There's 1. Here's 2. And here is number 3. Now we're going to do 1 double crochet here into this next stitch. All of our double crochets are worked exactly like I'm about to show you. We wrap our yarn, identify our next stitch, slide directly down, picking up that front loop, 2 rows below, and now we grab our yarn and we pull up a loop. This is where we want to keep loose tension just when we pull up this loop. We don't want to draw everything up. So just right here, we're staying loose, and now we're going to grab and pull through 2, and then we grab and pull through 2 to finish our double crochet. So it's how we position it, covering up this previous row, that creates our pattern. So now we do 1 single crochet here into the very next stitch. So again, working in that back loop. And then we do 1 double crochet into the very next stitch. And finish that up. And now we end our repeat by doing 3 single crochets over these next 3 stitches. There's 1, 2, and 3. And that ends our repeat for row number 3. So we're going to recap our repeat. The repeat for row 3 began over here when we did 3 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet, and we end the repeat with 3 single crochets. So all we need to do is keep working that same set of stitches on down the rest of our row. So I'm starting over with our 3 single crochets. There's 1, 2, and 3. Now we do 1 double crochet right here, very next stitch. One single crochet into the very next stitch, and 1 double crochet right here into this very next. And we end our repeat by doing 3 single crochets. 1, 2, and 3. So as you see, when you get to the end of your row, your repeat's going to end. You'll have 1 stitch left. This is how all of your row ends will work out throughout the entire project. You will complete your repeat. You'll have 1 stitch left. And we know we always do the traditional single crochet going under the V in the very last stitch. So you may pause here and you'll meet back up with me when you're ready to move on to row number 4. Here's what we have after completing the first 3 rows. Now we're joining on for row number 4, and we're joining on with color A. So our repeat for row 4 begins by doing 2 single crochets over the next 2 stitches. So we're going to identify that next stitch, work our single crochet. So there's number 1, and here is number 2. Now we're going to do 1 double crochet right here, very next stitch. Three single crochets over these next 3 stitches. There's 1, 2, and number 3. 1 double crochet here into this next stitch. And we end the repeat by doing 2 single crochets over these next 2 stitches. Here's number 1 and number 2. And that ends our repeat for row number 4. So let's recap our repeat. Our repeat for row number 4 began over here when we did 2 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 3 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 2 single crochets. So we'll start our repeat back over and keep working that same exact set of stitches, and then we will finish off on the last stitch of the row with our traditional single crochet. So you may pause here and come meet back up with me when you're ready to move on to row number 5. We are now joining on with color B this time for row number 5. And to begin our repeat for row 5, we're going to begin by doing 1 single crochet into the very next stitch. So we're going to identify our very next stitch and do 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet, 2 single crochets, 1 and 2, 1 double crochet, 2 single crochets, 1 and 2, 1 double crochet, and we end our repeat by doing 1 single crochet here into the very next stitch. So that ends our repeat for row number 5. So we're going to recap that repeat. Row 5's repeat began over here when we did 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet, 2 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 2 single crochets, 1 double crochet, and we end with 1 single crochet. So we're just going to start our repeat back over with that 1 single crochet and keep working that exact same set of stitches on down the rest of your row. And then we'll meet back up when you're ready to move on to row number 6. Row 6 begins now by joining on, this time with color A. And we begin our repeat for row number 6 immediately by doing 1 double crochet there into the very next stitch. So we're going to complete a double crochet right here. Two single crochets over these next 2 stitches. Here's number 1, number 2, 1 double crochet into the very next stitch, one single crochet into the very next stitch, 1 double crochet into the very next, 2 single crochets over the next 2 stitches. There's number 1, and here's number 2. And we will end our repeat by doing 1 double crochet here into this very next stitch. That ends our repeat for row number 6. So let's recap that repeat. Row 6's repeat began over here when we did 1 double crochet, 2 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet, 2 single crochets, and 1 double crochet. So you're going to keep working that same exact set of stitches on down the rest of your row, and then we will meet back up for row number 7 in just a moment. Row 7 begins by joining on with color B this time. And we're going to begin our repeat for row 7 immediately. And that repeat begins by doing a total of 2 single crochets over the next 2 stitches. So you're going to identify that very next stitch. I'm working only in that back loop. So there's our first single crochet. And here is the second. Now we're going to do 1 double crochet right here, very next stitch. We will now do 3 single crochets over the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. 1 double crochet here into this very next stitch. And we will end our repeat with 2 single crochets over the next 2 stitches. There's number 1 and number 2. And that ends our repeat for row number 7. So let's recap that repeat. Our repeat for row 7 began over here and we did a total of 2 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 3 single crochets, 1 double crochet, and 2 single crochets ends the repeat. So you're just going to start back over with your 2 single crochets and keep working the same exact set of stitches on down the rest of your row, and we'll be back in just a moment for row number 8. Row 8 begins by joining on this time with color A, and we're going to begin our repeat for row number 8 immediately by doing 2 double crochets over the next 2 stitches. Here's 1. And number 2. We'll now do 2 single crochets over these next 2 stitches. Here's 1 and 2. 1 double crochet right here into this next stitch. Two single crochets over these next 2 stitches. There's number 1 and number 2. And our repeat will end by doing 2 double crochets over these next 2 stitches. There's number 1 and number 2. And that ends our repeat for row number 8. So we're going to recap that repeat. Our repeat for row 8 began over here when we did a total of 2 double crochets, 2 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 2 single crochets, and we end with 2 double crochets. So you're going to start back over by working your 2 double crochets next and continue on down the rest of your row, repeating that same set of stitches over and over, and then we'll be back for row number 9. Row 9 begins by joining on this time with color B, and we're going to begin our repeat for row 9 immediately. And that repeat begins by doing a total of 3 single crochets over these next 3 stitches. So we're going to begin here, very next stitch. There's 1, 2, and 3. Now we're going to do 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet, and we will end the repeat for row 9 by doing 3 single crochets over these next 3 stitches. Here's 1, 2, and 3. That ends our repeat for row 9. So we're going to recap. Our repeat for row 9 began over here with 3 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet, and we end with 3 single crochets. So we'll just start back over with our 3 single crochets and keep working that same exact set of stitches on down the rest of our rows, and then we'll meet back up for row number 10. Row 10 begins by joining on with color A, and we begin our repeat for row 10 immediately by doing 1 single crochet into the very next stitch. Now we're going to do a total of 2 double crochets into the next 2 stitches. So identify that next stitch. 1 double crochet, and now we do a second double crochet. We will now do a total of 3 single crochets over the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. And we will do 2 double crochets into these next 2 stitches. Number 1 and number 2. And we will end our repeat by doing 1 single crochet here into this very next stitch. And that ends our repeat for row number 10. So our repeat for row 10 began over here when we did 1 single crochet, 2 double crochets, 3 single crochets, 2 double crochets, and 1 single crochet ends that repeat. So we're just going to start back over with our 1 single crochet and keep working that exact same set of stitches on down the rest of our row. So we'll meet back up when we're ready to move on to row number 11. Row 11 begins by joining on this time with color B, and we're going to begin the repeat for row 11 immediately by doing 1 double crochet into this very next stitch. Identify that next stitch, slide down. Now we're going to do a total of 3 single crochets over the next 3 stitches. Here's number 1, 2, and 3. Now we're going to do 1 double crochet here into the very next stitch. 3 single crochets over the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. And we end the repeat by doing 1 double crochet right here, very next stitch. That ends our repeat for row number 11. So we're going to recap that repeat. Our repeat for row 11 began over here with 1 double crochet, 3 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 3 single crochets, 1 double crochet. So you'll just start back over with your 1 double crochet and keep working that same exact set of stitches on down the rest of your row, and then we'll meet back up for row number 12 in just a moment. Row 12 begins by joining on with color A, and we begin the repeat for row 12 immediately by doing 2 single crochets over the next 2 stitches. Identify that next stitch, and we begin doing single crochets. There's number 1, and here is number 2. Now we're going to do a total of 2 double crochets over these next 2 stitches. There's 1 double crochet, and here is number 2. One single crochet into the very next stitch, 2 double crochets over the next 2 stitches. There's number 1 and number 2. Now we're going to do a total of 2 single crochets over the next 2 stitches to end our repeat for row number 12. So there's number 1 and number 2. And that ends our repeat. So we're going to recap our repeat. The repeat for row number 12 began over here when we did 2 single crochets, 2 double crochets, 1 single crochet, 2 double crochets, and 2 single crochets ends the repeat. So we'll just start back over with our 2 single crochets and keep working that same exact set of stitches on down the rest of our row. And we'll be back in just a moment for row number 13. Row 13 begins by joining on color B, and we begin the repeat for row 13 immediately by doing a total of 2 double crochets over the next 2 stitches. Just going to identify that very next stitch, slide down, and pick up. Finish out our first double crochet. So there's number 1, and here is number 2. We will now do a total of 5 single crochets over the next 5 stitches. So we're just going to identify this very next stitch and do 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We will now do a total of 2 double crochets over the next 2 stitches to end our repeat. So here's 1, and here is number 2. That ends our repeat for row 13. So we're going to recap that repeat. Our repeat for row 13 began right here when we did a total of 2 double crochets, 5 single crochets, and we end with 2 double crochets. So you'll just start back over with your 2 double crochets and keep working that exact same set of stitches. And then we'll meet back up for row 14 in just a moment. For row 14, we join on this time with color A, and now we begin our repeat for row 14, which begins by doing 4 single crochets over the next 4 stitches. So here's number 1, 2, 3, and number 4. Now we will do 1 double crochet, and our repeat for row 14 will end by doing 4 single crochets over the next 4 stitches. Here's number 2 for me, 3, and 4, and that ends our repeat. So let's recap what we just did. So row 14's repeat began by doing a total of 4 single crochets, 1 double crochet, and we end with 4 single crochets. So you'll just start back over doing 4 single crochets and keep working in the exact same manner on down the rest of your row. Row 15 is our final row, and we begin by joining on with color B this time. Our repeat for row 15 begins by doing a total of 4 double crochets over the next 4 stitches. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. One single crochet, very next stitch. We end our repeat by doing 4 double crochets over the next 4 stitches. Here's 1, 2, 3. Last stitch, number 4. So let's recap the repeat for row 15. Row 15's repeat begins by doing a total of 4 double crochets, 1 single crochet, 4 double crochets. So really easy repeat to remember. So you're going to keep working that exact same set of stitches on down the rest of your row. And then we'll talk about how you can rewind in this video to keep moving up for additional repeats of the same pattern. For those of you who would like to rewind in this video and keep working the same pattern for multiple repeats in a project that you're doing, like a blanket or something, you can rewind back to row number 2 in this video, and you will work rows 2 through 15 over and over as many times as you want to build up your project. When you begin your repeat over, so when you begin to move up and you start your repeat over, at that point, you can swap out. Color A would be the first color you could swap out when you do row 2 again up here. Or you can swap out color B on row number 3 when you're repeating it up here. So it's up to you if you want to keep the same colors or swap out. And this information is down below in the description, along with a lot of other information. But as always, if you have any questions at all, you can leave me a comment down in the comment section, and I'll get back to you as quick as I can. As always, I appreciate you guys so much for watching. Until next time, bye for now.